everybody, and welcome to Lit Love. I'm Juliana J, and today we're talking about poetry because it's Poetry Month. Now, I wanted to show you this is the first poetry book I ever owned. My dad gave it to me, I think, when I was maybe 10 or 12. He has a little inscription in here. So cute. But anyway, I loved this book so much. It had really cute illustrations and things like that, and had lots of poetry in it that I spent many, many nights as a kid thinking about, contemplating, wondering about, learning about different cultures and different experiences people had through this book. Now, of course, I'm sure it's very whitewashed throughout here, but I even have my own poetry written in here throughout the years when I was a kid. I didn't even know that was in there. I haven't looked at this book in a while. But as I was saying, it's probably very Western, a collection of poetries that is more Western. I have also all these other poetry books that I think are really important. I want to talk about this one, Alice Walker, Taking the Arrow Out of the Heart. This is such a amazing book collection of poems that I felt was just so powerful and thought-provoking. I first discovered it when I lived in Milwaukee, maybe a decade ago or so. And shout out to the Milwaukee Library, the best library of any town I've ever lived in. It's incredible. Although where I live here in Santa Cruz, this library is also pretty good. The Milwaukee Library is where I read all of Alice Walker's poems. I've always been a fan of her novels. I've read them all, but I hadn't read her poetry, and I got just so enthralled with it. I rented them all again and again a couple of times, and it was really it's a life-changing experience to read poetry from folks who are different from you, but also with whom you share some commonalities, if nothing more than just being presenting as the same gender or having the same social issues or living in the same area. There's so much to be learned through poetry. And it's not just that the verses are so beautiful and so put together in a very, almost, I want to say, theatrical way, but that would be an injustice. But it's, there's just so much vision, so much to see in a book like this. So this particular one is from the library. It's a Spanish and English version. I've owned this book quite a few times in my life, and I keep giving it away every time I actually own it. So I got this one from the library. Give it a read. It's incredible. This book I talk about all the time. They Come For Us by Fatima Ashgar. It is incredible. She is a poet who travels all over. She is also, I think, co-wrote Brown Girls. Yeah, she is the writer, co-wrote. That does not give her justice. She is the writer of Brown Girls, an Emmy-nominated web series that highlights friendships between women of color. This book will rip your heart out. It will also bring you a sense of understanding. I don't want to say too much about it. It other than it's so beautiful, but also really makes you confront yourself on what you think about other people and what internal biases you may have and what struggles other people are having that you really didn't think about before because it isn't part of your story. And let's face it, we can be pretty self-absorbed a lot of the times. And even though there are some things I knew, this was a real eye-opener to me in a beautiful way. I bought this at the Santa Cruz bookshop Santa Cruz, I think maybe 8 years ago or so, and I continually come back to it because not only is it beautiful, but there's so much to gain through the words in this book. This is another one I just got. Oop. This is another one I just got from the library. I haven't read it yet all the way through. Things You May Find Hidden in My Ear. It is this one I was looking at. It's pretty heart-wrenching. There's a lot of stuff in here about Gaza and living there and what that's like and what the people are going through. And in the center of the book, there's a couple of photographs with one-liners that are really thought-provoking as well. I've read probably the first half of this book. I feel like I need to go slower and really digest a lot of what is being said here. It is very powerful. So it's a small little book, as you can see. But it's packed with a lot, and I think that's the thing is poetry is such a format for learning and exploring in a way that isn't just reading straight history, but it's getting the personal story, and that's what makes poetry so amazing to me in so many other ways. Now, this is a book that my mom had in her library. My mom and dad had, like, a huge library, and one of my mom's, pastimes when she lived in San Francisco was to go to the bookstores and try and find old books, first editions and things like that, and purchase them, but she just purchased a lot of books in general, and this is one that I saved. It has that very thin paper it's written on. I don't know what the date is of this book because it really doesn't say. It just goes straight into the contents. But this book is it's Wordsworth poems, and it's very classic. Like you want to get a feel for what poets were writing in the day, pick up a really old poetry book from a used bookstore and check it out and see where their micro community was at the time and what they were working through and looking through and going through. It's a great time capsule. It was back when we didn't have internet, obviously, so much of the poetry written during those times is it's not as global. It's more regional in some ways, or there's thoughts that are regional. They're getting together with other people from across the world, but they aren't talking daily. So it's kind of interesting in a way. This is another one of my mom's poetry books. Where was this one? It's published in London. It's signed by the author. And again, I have no idea when this book was published. The writing's so small I can barely read it. It's a super delicate book. So when I read this book, I'm very careful with it. This is my book I've had for about 20 years. Rumi, as a lot of you know, is a Sufi poet. This is the Essential Rumi. You can still buy this everywhere. I see it all the time, everywhere I look. I don't know exactly what edition this is. So beautiful. So beautiful. His spiritual works in the form of poetry through a Sufi poet who was, I think, born in, I want to say Rumi died in like 1270 something. Don't quote me on that, but this book is very dog-eared. I'll find something, I dog-ear it, and then I go back to it again and again and again. And I think that's one thing about poetry is that you don't get it the first sweep through. You have to go through it kind of again and again and again and get more out of it each time you go through and look at it. Allen Ginsberg, one of the Beats from the Beat generation. This book is great. It's very thick, as you can see. Obviously, I haven't gone all the way through it, but this is so representational of the times that where the Beat generation was writing, and so much of it is pertinent today. Like, there's one particular poem I have on a postcard somewhere that I got from City Lights, which is a bookstore in San Francisco that has very heavy ties to the Beat generation and Beat writers. I'm not going to go into the history of it right now, but this is a really great book. I picked it up. You can find Allen's poetry everywhere. It will resonate with you because it is very much sign of the times that is sort of repeating itself in some ways right now. Also, that I don't have in this pile, that I should have in this pile, is my favorite Beat writer, Jack Kerouac. Jack's poetry is thought-provoking. I feel like every time I read his poetry, I really have to think a little deeper into what he's actually saying. It's great. It's great writing. These are all great, amazing books to look into during Poetry Month. And there's so much more. If you have a favorite poetry book, I hope you will share it with me and all of us so that we can go out and get it and celebrate poetry during Poetry Month. So there you go. I mean, highly, what is that called? I highly suggest you pick up Alice Walker and all these other folks here because poetry is such a beautiful art form. And we don't get a lot of it in school growing up. And that's really a shame because so many of us go through a period in life when we're writing poetry. A lot of times it happens during high school and junior high. This is sort of where the poems that I have in this book that I wrote are from. I can tell by the style of handwriting that I use. And I think we all go through times in life where we're writing poetry to ourselves or just because or to experience the world or to figure out who we are as people. It's a tool like no other. It's important to us at various times in life. If you like music, you like poetry because lyrics are a form of poetry as far as I'm concerned. So go out and get a poetry book. Look in your poetry sections at your bookstores, your libraries, anywhere you can, and read some poetry in this month of poetry. So thank you so much for being here on Far Out Lit Love. I'm Juliana J, and I hope I see you again soon. Happy reading.